Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first inaugural uh, episode of the BBW Podcast, Beers, Bots, and Wrestling. I am Nate Gleason. I'm joined here with Dustin Hayward and
Yo,
Lance Johnson.
Hello.
And let me tell you what we're all about. Uh, Beers, Bots, and Wrestling. That's BBW. So we're gonna focus some time on beers that we're into, that we're drinking currently. Bots pertains to all the stuff we like to collect: Transformers, Gundam, Power Rangers, anything robots. And wrestling, we are all avid pro wrestling fans. All three of us kind of focus on different stuff, and I think we'll all have an interesting opinion here. So, where do you guys want to pick up?
Let's go in order.
Okay.
Start with beers. Let's start with beers.
So let's go around. Lance, why don't we start with you
Sure.
and give us your preferences, what you're all about when it comes to beer.
When it comes to beer, I will fully admit the more ABV, the better. I tend to like sour beers over fruity beers. I think my favorite is probably the Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale. Um, and I think that's about it. I do tend generally, though, to lean more towards bourbon rather than beer. It's still a B, but a B with a little more kick.
Yeah, yep, and that is true. I am very similar. So Dustin, how about you? When you're drinking beer, what do you go for?
it depends on my mood because I like it all. It's like sometimes I'm like I want a Guinness. Sometimes I lean towards like the fruitier side of the beers. But I do agree with Lance that Kentucky bourbon is fantastic, especially they do a vanilla barrel aged cream ale. That's ridiculous.
All of
So
us are familiar with it.
very familiar with it. So if you want a fun time, so I've actually been to their brewery and distillery before.
Oh,
My wife and I go to Kentucky every year. Absolutely
nice.
love it. When we went there the first time, they were doing tastings, and they said, "Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take our bourbon barrel ale, and then we're gonna take our bourbon barrel stout, and we're gonna basically do a black and tan, but we call it a double barrel because both of them are 8.5 plus ABV.
Right.
It's fantastic. It knocks you on your butt real quick, but it's fantastic."
Can 100% confirm that.
That's what I had. I was at C2E2 last weekend, and we went out to this pizza place Friday night, and I had a beer called the Apex Predator,
Ooh.
and it was 8.5, and man, that coupled with the wine we were drinking, it was a rough walk back to the hotel.
That sounds like it. That sounds good. I'm gonna have to. What was that one again?
It's the Apex Predator.
Apex Predator. All right,
I
I'm
can
gonna write
send
that
you
down.
I can send a picture of the label in the group chat.
Oh, that was
Definitely.
awesome.
All right. So when it comes to my preferences, uh, I am very similar. I like a lot of things. I focus on sours and fruity beers. I mean, those are kind of my wheelhouse. I've decided that I don't hate IPAs. It just has to be the right. I'm still trying to learn what hops give what flavor profiles. It's all kind of a citrusy thing that
Right.
happens with the
Yeah.
IPA hops. It's just which ones lead more towards the grapefruity citrus and which ones lead more towards like the pine flavor. And I'm less of a fan of those piney ones. Um, but yeah, one of my favorite beers, and like Lance said, the higher proof ones are great. My absolute favorite is beer from right here in the Northeast, Allagash. It's called Curio. It is a bourbon barreled triple. Um,
Nice.
and that clocks in at like 10.5, I think.
Yeah.
So it a couple of those, and you know you're gonna have a good night.
Oh yeah.
So right now I just cracked open this can from Night Shift Brewery, which has two locations here in Massachusetts. Um, I forget where their home base is, but they have a location right by the TD Bank North Garden, right on the docks there. And that's the one that I've been to. It's called Briarweiss. It is a mixed fermentation sour with blackberries and lemon. So, how about you two? What are you guys sipping on right now?
I've got a beer from Woodland Farms Brewery, and I don't know, Nate, if you've brought this one over before or not. You bring a lot of beer over my house.
I do.
But it's Choctopus Rex. It's a chocolate nitro stout. Like I said, it's from Woodlands Farm Brewery, which is in Maine, and it's pretty good.
I have not. I can tell you, I have not brought that over before.
Okay.
But yeah,
Something similar though.
the one that I bring over fairly often to you is the chocolate peanut butter stout from
Yeah,
Mass
so
Land.
that one is phenomenal. There have been many nights that I have forgotten because of that.
Yep, Mass Land. So now let's. How about we go around? Well, on this beer theme, and talk about some of our favorite breweries. We like. So Lance, why don't you go ahead and start?
Sure. So I, like you, we're both in the Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan in general of Allagash. I will throw Sam Adams in there as well. The Town Branch Brewery and Distillery in Lexington, Kentucky. Because I swear to God, without that, I wouldn't make it through the weekend that I'm down there. And Nate, you know why, I'm sure.
Oh, yes. Believe me, that
have
will be a
full
topic
episode.
of conversation at some point.
Well, theoretically, we might be going back down there again this year. And if we're recording on the weekend, like we are right now, then I'll be on location and we can get into some stories.
Nice.
But outside of that, I'm trying to think of, what's surprisingly good is the Budweiser Brewery, because we happen to have a Budweiser Brewery here in Merrimack, New Hampshire, and it's not just Bud. They have all kinds of their craft beer, because craft beer doesn't have an actual definition. So theoretically, anyone can make a craft beer, and Budweiser makes a ton. And there are a ton that you won't see in any store that are just out of nowhere, and they're really, really good. I think one of them that they were testing out a few years ago, and then it ended up into the store was I can't remember the name of it, but it was a tequila infused beer, and that was really, really good. But our Budweiser plant has what they call the beer garden, and it's literally a small bar right outside the plant. You can go to it. They have all kinds of stuff that they're basically testing out there, and they have food, and it's great. We've been there, or I've been there on a couple of company outings.
Yeah, and I feel like this is a good segue into this. I'll be able to talk more about it after it happens in May, obviously. But this year they're holding the third annual Bacon and Beer Festival.
Ooh, yes.
It is a charity event to sponsor a local. It's a lot like Make-A-Wish, only for here in New Hampshire. It helps usually fatal children help whatever they need, and it is. This will be my first year going to it. I'm trying to get Lance to come along. It's all about scheduling.
Yeah, we'll talk about it offline. But if I can go, I will definitely go,
Yeah.
especially since it's in May.
Say again, Dustin. You broke up there.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to come visit you guys, man.
I have a guest room. It's all set up. Come on up.
Right on, man.
I had a guest room. Technically, it's still there. So if you make it up before we have to throw out the mattress and replace it with a crib, you could stay here too.
Yeah, dude. I know that life, man. I got 2 kids of my own.
Yeah, this is my second one on the way. My oldest one is 12. He's a good kid though. He built this massive city complex. So I'm in my basement right now, which is also doubles as my toy room. So I've got this 8x8 area that's just the padded mats, and on it he laid out Triptychon, Fort Max, Metroplex, Omega Supreme, and my Year of the Seiko Omega Supreme, along with the entire line of Titans Return bases and what we have so far from Earthrise and Sea for bases, and it just takes up pretty much the whole mat.
That's badass. You got Scorponok pre-ordered? You gonna get that in there?
After I get we'll get into it when we get into
we are getting a little ahead of the curve here.
We're jumping forward. We're getting excited.
All good. So Dustin, let's switch over to you now. Your favorite breweries, local or not? Right
on. All right. So also currently we're into the Youngling Golden Pilsners here. So that's what we're drinking. But breweries, we have a place downtown here called Yakida's that does they brew their own beers and do like specialty pizzas and stuff that are pretty ridiculous. I love what's it called? Evil Czech Brewery.
Not familiar.
Yeah. Founders.
Yes. Yeah. Founder stuff is great.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
A local store here that are ridiculous. But there's this dive bar in Panama City called Patches. And at this place, they have one beer that they brew themselves called Red Diver. It is the tastiest beer I've ever had in my entire life. And you can only get it at that bar in pitchers or cups. And they will not sell you growlers. You can't get it any other way.
I kind of love that, actually.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's the smoothest, tastiest beer I've ever had. I think about that beer until I go back to Florida.
That's awesome. So, as Lance said, both him and myself are up in the Northeast, and I truly believe, and if you go on any national publication, especially like ratebeer.com, the Northeast, they're constantly rated among the top breweries in the world.
Oh, I bet. I mean,
yeah, no, I tend to agree.
You're always showing off shit that I'm jealous of.
So one of my hobbies in the summer is definitely trying to hit new breweries in the area. And one of the things that I love is this website called brewtodO.com. And what you can do there is you can essentially print out checklists. These checklists have little tap handles on them, and anytime you visit a brewery, you color in a tap handle. And so now I have lists printed for all of New England, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Connecticut, Rhode Island. I'm going to focus on New Hampshire here because that's where I am, and some of my favorites here. All-time favorite, state of New Hampshire, Pipe Dream Brewery in Londonderry.
They're really good.
They get me because they do weird shit with beer, like weird fruits, weird sours, just interesting. And so they focus on the West Coast style of IPAs, and what that is, I couldn't give you the exact definition, but that's their mission statement, I guess you could say. As what they focus on. So they are my all-time favorite. Others that I've been to here in New Hampshire that are at my absolute favorite, White Birch over in Nashua. They also focus on the fruit and sour beers. In fact, it's really tough to get a tap list from them any particular day because they'll switch stuff out 3 times a day. That's how small their batches are. I gotta agree with Lance. The Budweiser brewery is a cool spot, especially that beer garden. They have interesting stuff. They also bring in a lot of import stuff that's under their name, a lot of German stuff that's under their name, and that can be interesting. I gotta mention Backyard Brewery because they have great food. The beer itself is, in my opinion, can be hit or miss there. But they sometimes do some very interesting stuff. So in New Hampshire alone, let's see. I've been to 16 breweries. And that's maybe a quarter of what's in the state. Maybe.
Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff popping up here. Just in places like you wouldn't expect anyway, because I remember this summer we went to before SummerSlam, after SummerSlam, sometime around SummerSlam, we went to the Henniker Brewing Company, and that was good. And that was right down the street from me.
In fact, it was that weekend.
I know it was that weekend. I just can't remember where it fell.
It was that Sunday because we had nothing to do up until SummerSlam. So.
Yeah. But yeah, they're popping up all over the place. I think Tuckaway Tavern does their own now. A more touristy spot, but still good, is the Woodstock Inn. Woodstock Inn's really good. They're right up in the heart of ski area up here, but they're so worth it. And if you go there, the food is out of this world. I go there for the food alone. Beer is just a bonus, which is kind of weird, but because we're talking mainly about beer. But the food there is absolutely incredible. I remember I got a deli melt, and it was a thick slice of Texas toast piled high with all kinds of deli meat, covered in molten cheese, covered in gravy, and that lasted me like 3 days.
Wow.
It was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Yep. There's just amazing stuff. And as we do more of this, I'll start getting into the other, states that I've been to with this list. But I strongly urge that you guys check out this site, brewtodolist.com, because there could be stuff around you that you don't even realize. I know that's how I discovered some stuff in downtown Nashua. I didn't even know was around me, and it's just fun. It's a lot of fun. All right, so I think that covers kind of at least the initial introduction for all three of us for beer. And let's segue over into bots. Lance, why don't you kick us off as to what your collection focus is in the bot area?
Sure. So for bots, I mainly focus on the mainline Transformer stuff, the Chug generation stuff. And that's pretty much it. I don't get into G1. G1 is awesome. I love G1. But my main focus is the current mainline stuff. And the reasoning for that is, again, love G1, but some of the stuff, some of the prices, they tend to get a little high for some of these older items that are more fragile, potentially to break. For me, I got back into collecting, I guess, when my son was born about 12 years ago. So that was right at the start of the Chug line. I started with Chug. I love Chug. I've got a bunch of stuff from other different things, but again, it's mainly the Generations line that I collect.
All right, and we're already fully assuming that anyone who's listening to this probably understands that acronym, but just in case, let's give them a refresher.
Classics, Henkai, Universe, and Generations. And that's what Chug stands for. Classics being what it was called initially in the US. Henkai is what the variations were called in Japan. Universe was a subline of the Classics line where they took some of the movie molds, some of the molds that they made for the movie toys, and recolored them into more G1 characters. And Generations is what Classics morphed into in the US, and still to this day, technically, all of the Transformers stuff are Transformers Generations. So that Generations will take you from when Classics started, which was, correct me if I'm wrong here, circa 2005?
2006, early 2006.
Okay. So 2006, and then that carries you all the way through Earthrise, which you're getting today, which I guess technically would also encompass those Netflix characters everyone's so excited about.
In fact, if I may interject here, the Classics line I find a little hilarious almost, because as any diehard collector will know, the Classics line, it didn't happen by accident, but it just happened to be filler. So Cybertron ended in 2005. We already knew that a live-action movie was coming out in 2007. So in 2006, there wasn't much product to fill the gap. And this Classics line just came about as a year-long gap filler. And little do we know that it would last, what are we on? 19, not 19, we're on 13 years now?
14.
Yeah. 14 years of this aesthetic becoming kind of the norm because of this one line. They were like, all right, well, let's make product to fill in between what we had and what we're going to have for the movie.
Right, and I think really what the Classics line did was rekindle everything since the classic line started. Now, granted, the movie has a lot to do with it too, right? I know not everyone is a huge fan of the movie. I will say if I'm looking at it and comparing it to like the MCU, yeah, those Transformer movies aren't great. But what it did do was spark interest in Transformers. And I think we as collectors saw the classics line and said, this is what we want, especially when we saw some of the movie characters and their design. And when that filler line came out, that caused Hasbro to basically say, all right, we're going to slowly just re-release all of G1, just updated. And I think that was really what helped spark the toy sales resurgence of Transformers, because we know the movie sales of toy sales have dropped off quite significantly, but the classic sales really remained strong, and they were bolstered by the movie. So both of those, I think, really gave rise to what we're getting now. I think if either the classics line had bombed or the movie line had bombed, we wouldn't have even the Titan class at all. Like, it would not exist today. But that's just my opinion.
Yes, very well said, and I agree with that. Now, I know for a fact you also dabble in Gundams and such. Is there anything about that you want to touch upon?
I mean, I haven't built a Gundam in a while. I do dabble somewhat in Gundam. I dabble a little bit in G.I. Joe. I dabble a little bit in Marvel Legends. Very, very, very selectively with the WWE Elites, and SH Fig Arts as well. So I don't necessarily try to get a little bit of everything, but somehow I end up with a little bit of everything. It's outside of Transformers, it's just whatever I think is cool or I'm into at the time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's funny how that happens, and I'll touch upon that when it's my turn. Dustin, same thing. What, as far as bots go, where does your focus lie? What's your passion in that realm?
All right, so right now it's definitely in the MP and third party MP Transformers. I don't know, something about holding a metal robot in your hand, Which is the same reason I go for like the Super Robot Chigokin and Solar Chigokin. I do a little bit of Gundam here and there. I have a lot of a fucking boatload of it. But yeah, mostly just MP Transformers as far as that goes.
Yeah, I mean, but definitely elaborate on the Solar Chigokin stuff, because that's another realm in and of its own. That's frankly pretty cool.
Right. Yeah. I dude, I don't even care about, like, I don't know if I've ever seen an anime with some of these characters, but I love a badass super robot, like the Great Mazingers and Mazinkaisers and God Sigmas and Galfigars and all that business. Like, they're just sweet robot designs. And especially, like the Power Rangers, Megazord, Dragonzord, Solar Jigokin are just beautiful pieces of art.
They are. I mean, I don't think it's happening a little more now than not. You have like the companies like Mondo who are marketing toys as art pieces.
Right.
But I'll tell you, toys are becoming a medium that is now definitely in the art realm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's why, like, I collect Hot Toys because they're like having a tiny person in your room. It's like having
Yeah.
a small wax museum.
That's actually kind of a creepy thought, to be honest with you. Like,
Good point. But
No,
I
but
mean, it's that point where it's like you go to the wax museum, it's just shrunk down, and it's always like a wow factor when you look at them.
and you know what? God bless you for for doing that whole uh, Hot Toys thing, because I cannot paying that much for a single 1/12 or 1/6 rather scale figure is, and I know there are lots of collectors out there just as much as people may judge myself or Lance for sticking with the just retail things. I can't imagine that's yeah, words fail with that.
yeah, I mean, especially with two kids, like, I like from a me perspective, like I don't know, like I would feel bad spending that money. Like I said, one of the reasons that I collect is so that way I've got a connection with my son. I've brainwashed him since the day he was born to love Transformers, and gosh darn it, he loves Transformers. Um,
Right.
like I would, those things are absolutely beautiful and incredible. But at some point, like, I want to play, and I'd be scared playing with them, and that's part of the reason that I got out of the Masterpiece game, because I had a few, but I sold them all off because I wasn't really doing anything with them. They were just like sitting on a shelf looking pretty, and at some point, like, part of a toy's purpose is to play. So I think that's
Yeah.
where you cross the line from toy to collectible. Uh,
Right.
Plus, if anything ever happens to this stuff, it's a hell of a lot cheaper to replace.
That's a fact.
Yep.
And then I do have quite a few Beast Wars figures too down here.
Oh, we love us some Beast Wars.
I do. I love Beast Wars. The show is great. The toys are great.
Oh, absolutely. I still have a few kicking around. Actually, the last two Masterpiece figures I have are both Beast Wars. It's Primal and Cheetor.
Oh yeah, the
And
ones that are so priced to where you could afford them.
yeah, reasonable price. Then they were like, "Hey, we'll give you Dinobot for $250," and I'm like,
Yeah, no.
how
I
about like
sold
Rat
Cheetor
Trap,
too.
like 50, like, and then we'll be cool.
Right.
But yeah, once they started getting up to Dinobot, Megatron, Dinobot was like, all right, I can put some away. I'll save some. I'll get it at some point. And once they said, oh, Megatron's going to be 350, I was like, no, never mind.
Yeah, it was just too ridiculous.
And frankly, there's that KO now that just came out of Beast Wars Megatron. He's getting yeah, it's getting rave reviews. Really
Is it?
good.
I thought about getting it too.
I guess the finish is not as pretty as Takara's, but
Yeah.
when you look at the price difference, I think the trade-off is
Pretty enough.
very acceptable. Yeah.
I might take a look into that one.
All right, so as far as myself, I too stick with the retail chug aesthetic for the most part, um, and with bots, it's mainly Transformers. Um, I have a couple of pieces of Solar Chigokin in my my collection. As far it's the Power Ranger stuff, like Dustin you were talking about. It's the Megazord and Dragonzord.
Yeah.
I can't bring myself to get that Titanus yet because Yeah. And fun fact about that Titanus, which is the main reason why I can't bring myself to get it, is because it is the exact same mold as the Legacy Titanus, which came out what 2-3 years ago.
Right.
The
when
last
Bandai was doing
right?
the Legacy thing. All that Bandai did to it was just change the ports so you can plug your Soul Chigokin stuff in. And
a little more die cast.
Say again?
They added a little more die cast, not much, but
No, hardly any, because everything. I mean, the cannon tips, the claws, all that stuff was die cast already on Legacy.
what about the space where you put the Megazord in? The little plate in there on the Soul Chigokin is like polished die cast metal.
Honestly, I think that may be the only die cast addition to that one.
Yeah.
Because all the rest of it's metal.
Yeah, all I know is I've seen on reviews because I was like, I'm out. I'm not paying $200 for.
Exactly. And here's what, and this is going to be, this is me adjusting my glasses, saying, well, excuse me. That Titanus is less TV accurate than the Legacy.
Well, so is the Dragon Zord too because of the chrome.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you could definitely make that argument as well.
Yeah.
The Dragon Zord, I find the Dragon Zord less egregious because it has all of the same sculpted details where they need to be,
Right.
and they're all colored correctly.
Right.
And again, we're talking about nitpicky stuff here, like really nitpicky stuff. But that one doesn't bug me at all. I like the tail system way more on the Soul Chigokin, and Jesus Christ, you oughta for the price, at least when it initially came out.
I bought it right away too, so
Yeah.
I didn't even get the discount.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's why I can't bring myself to buy Titanus yet.
The display is boring.
Exactly. I mean, that's all you're gonna get out of it is Ultrazord, and
yeah, and you're gonna risk wrecking your other two because of all the weight you're putting on them.
Exactly.
Megazord's heavy to lay on. I laid it across the Megazord one time, and I was like, yeah, I'm probably not doing that again.
I've yet to combine them. I've had Megazord for about a year and a half now. I've had Dragon Zord for about a year now, and I still have yet to like disassemble Dragon Zord.
Oh, you haven't even done battle mode yet?
Yeah, no, I haven't done any like the mega battle, the super.
The Dragon Zord battle mode? That thing.
Yeah, Dragon Zord battle mode. That's what I was trying to say.
That's a sexy bitch right there, man. You do that.
All right. You're convincing me.
I was like, I don't know if I want to display it like this or like that. I was like, man.
I will say, I kind of now while it was the first release, so everyone, I don't know how many people listening to this will have been keeping up with Soul Chigokin releases and stuff like that, but Megazord has had essentially 3 releases.
Right.
First one was the original Japanese, then there was the American, and then there was the Japanese second run.
Which is the one that I got, was the third release one.
Yeah. So with the first 2, with the Japanese initial release and the American, there were quite a few QC complaints on that one. Were they detrimental to the toy itself? No. Was it annoying for what if you bought it right out the gate, you were paying $2.99. If you were lucky enough to get it on the Amazon sale, you got it for $1.70.
Right.
I was lucky enough to handle the version 2 and know to wait for the version 3. So,
right.
So that's the one that I have right now. But that's that for people. I feel bad for people who paid $2.99 for the first 2 releases and then have to deal with subpar product, especially if you're trying to make that Ultra Sword.
Yeah, definitely. The joints are definitely weaker than the last release.
So that's part of the reason why I stay away from that realm of stuff, because Lance hit the nail perfectly on the head. That is that they just kind of sit there and look pretty. They're really not made to be played with too much. You can pose them every once in a while, but even the Megazord, there's only so many posing options you can get out of that.
Yeah, that's true.
And as far as other things that I dabble in, I know I only have one piece because I won a giveaway. I have a Storm Collectibles Mortal Kombat figure. I know that you have gotten into that a little bit, right?
Yeah, I have a lot of them.
Yeah. As I'm sitting here at my desk, I'm looking at a Batman animated series Batmobile that I have here. So, as Lance said, while I focus on one thing, I somehow have wound up with a lot of other things that I dabble in.
Yeah, I think I collect almost a little bit of every of the popular lines. Like Mezco, Marvel Legends, Star Wars Black Series, Monster Arts, Figure Arts, Mayfex. It's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, at some point it just all kind of sneaks in, because once you get into one area, you're like, oh, good, I'm going through it all. Oh, wait, that thing over there, that's really cool. Do I have a spot for it? No. Can I make a spot for it? Yes.
Yeah.
So you just go and you get it, and all of a sudden you're like, all right, now where do I put it?
Right. Marvel Legends hooked me with their 90s X-Men. Like all of a sudden I was like, all right, I'm in, I guess.
Oh, I had to stay so far away from that, because when I got into it, it was this, when I was like, all right, they're getting really into that, and I'm like, I want to go down that road, and my local Walmart had Gambit at like $11. I'm like, okay, if I get Gambit, then who else do I have to get that they've already released? And I started adding it up, and I'm like, it's too much to go back.
Right.
Just because there are some figures that are just old, or you could do something like get the 3-pack of figures that they have if you wanted like Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Wolverine all together. But I think even that 3-pack was what, $80, so it was $20 over what they would have been individually.
I think it was $69 at GameStop. Yeah, I bought it. But yeah, still like $10 more.
Yeah.
That's GameStop too.
Yeah, that's true. So it probably retailed right around 60 if GameStop was asking 70.
Right.
But it's a slippery slope once you get going on something that, like, you have that positive memory of. Like Nate said, Batman the Animated Series, they had a whole line of figures. I didn't see them out in a lot of places. They're mostly at comic book stores.
Yeah.
But then you've got an additional markup there. And like I said, I've got WWE figures. I never had a WWE figure growing up as a kid. I watched WWE as a kid, but now I've got let's see. There's 4, 6.
Well, you have
I think
you have
7.
the Figure Arts and you have the Bullet Club.
Well, I'm not counting the Figure Arts, because Figure Arts I put kind of in their own category because they're not WWE elites. But you're right. I've got the Bullet Club, so I've got Gallows, Anderson, Styles, I've got Demon Balor. Then I've got a Triple H that I got specifically to pose with the Lemmy Prime or the Rodimus Unicronus from Power of the Primes that look like Lemmy from Motorhead.
That's a badass play.
Right? It's awesome. I love it. And then I have Gargano and Ciampa from NXT. I have their elite figures. And that's like the entirety of my collection for WWE elites. But it's one of those things. I never thought I would ever own a WWE figure, and now I've got 7.
And I used to be huge into collecting wrestling figures. Like I had 3 rings. I had the Jax Titantron playset. I don't know if any of you remember the Tron Ready figures. They had the little metal things on their foot.
Yeah.
Put them on a Titantron, and now entering the Titantron, it would play a shitty sample of their music.
Still though, man, when you're young, dude, that shit's so fucking fresh.
Oh, it was. Are you kidding? I was in an arena of 15,000 people there when I was doing that. Like I was in it.
I had the CDs. I still have some of the CDs. I had the CDs and a boombox and my ring and my Bone Crunch and action figures and a flashlight. And I would put on a fucking light show.
Oh man, I still have volumes 1 through 4 on CD, and
2 over on my table over here.
Oh man,
I have WWE Aggression somewhere.
Nice.
Like if you ever that's the one where they went and did all the weird like hip hop versions of the entrance.
Yep.
For reasons.
Yeah.
Just reasons. There was no specific reason. They were just like we were gonna do it.
All right, so here's a little throwback for you. You may remember this, Dustin. In the early 2000s, I'd say maybe 04 or so, Jack started getting on board with the articulation in figures and started making these series of figures. Some of them were called finishing moves, and others were called final count.
Yep.
But like the larger scale ones, all with a great amount of articulation. And, and one thing that I just remember vehemently, and I've been trying to look for recently, but not with any success. One of the figures I had from that kid was the 2-pack of Taker and Bradshaw.
Yeah.
Taker was my favorite, so he was just my Taker. Bradshaw, I couldn't give 2 shits about.
Right.
So I took his figure when I was a kid.
Acolyte
Wait,
Bradshaw?
you're not excited that Bradshaw's going into the Hall of Fame right now?
If he wasn't such a throbbing chode, yeah.
Exactly.
Dude's
a fucking.
I know.
So here's what I did with that Bradshaw figure, because it wasn't Acolytes Bradshaw, it was APA Bradshaw. So kind of like in that in between era. So what I did is I carved off his hair, because as you know, with that Final Count and Finishing Move series, they sculpted their hair in mid-action poses.
Yeah.
And it was just dumb. Thankfully, it was Badass Taker that we got, so it was so he had the short hair at that point, so it was whatever. But Bradshaw had this weird ass sculpt to his hair, so I cut it off, painted his head, and customized him into the character that I created for Raw versus SmackDown 2006.
The character was Farouk.
So I had him, and it scaled with that Taker because I had that character be 6'9.5", and so about a year ago, I was like, what would be cool? It'd be cool to get that figure back, customize him again now that I'm not 15. And of course, when I was 15, I got rid of him because I was like, oh, what's cool? Boobs. You know what's not cool? Toys.
Dude, same. Happened to me too.
And of course I go back looking for him now, And who ends up being one of the most sought after, hard to get 2-packs of that line? Bradshaw versus Taker.
Wow.
Like, isn't that's karma for you?
Yeah.
Well, I think the reason you went back and started looking for him now, Nate, is you found you couldn't get boobs, so you went back to.
Wow! All right. Whoa! All right. All right.
Well,
At least
All right, I'm
At least
sorry.
I know how harsh we're gonna get on this podcast now. So I'm filling the magazine. I'm getting ready.
We have so much ammo on each other, it would be just an hour and a half of us going at it.
This this podcast could get downright dirty. I'll tell you, okay, so I think this is a perfect segue now to get into the third leg of our name, the W, which is Wrasslin. So, Lance, you're kind of our expert on all things here. So we're gonna start in reverse order. I'm gonna go first, then we'll go to Dustin, then we'll finish with you.
All right, that sounds good.
So, I am. The only reason I am a fan now is because Lance got me back into it. I don't keep up with it as much as I should. Because of the way the main product has been going, I've been kind of doing the whole reading results more than I have been actually watching it. NXT I'll still tune into now and again because it's fantastic. And the more and more I read about AEW, which for those who are not in the know is now kind of the big competitor to WWE. I mean, I wouldn't say it's full-blown competition, but it's the only other one that's on a prime time slot.
I think it will be soon if they keep going the way they're going, man.
Yeah. Yep. So I was just reading Raw results here, and I after reading what happened this past week, I intend to go back and actually watch it because I love. First of all, I won't call it an obsession, but I just love Liv Morgan right now. I love that they've brought her back while interjecting her in the Bobby Lashley storyline is not my favorite.
You have to remember that was the week that Stephanie McMahon went on one of the national shows and said that they wanted to introduce more LGBTQ characters into WWE. The problem that they had with that is they let Paul Heyman do it. I love Paul Heyman. I don't get me wrong. I love Paul Heyman, but if you go back and watch ECW or the WWE version of ECW, where he did a similar storyline, he's not the guy you want leading that charge.
No, sir.
Not one bit.
Not at all. The only other person that could be worse than him leading that charge would be Vince leading that charge.
Yeah.
I don't know. Vince did.
Vince did what? Do we need to go back through the numerous storylines?
We need to go back to HLA. Oh
God.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, I went there.
Oh God, it hurts.
It does. It really does.
The wonderful storyline that culminated, I believe, at WrestleMania with Linda McMahon when she was in a coma.
Oh God.
That's my favorite storyline. I mean, nothing says creative genius like making out with Trish Stratus in front of what is supposed to be your wheelchair-ridden disabled wife. Right. And then, oh God, what other ones do we have? There were too many. Oh, the rumored one that he wanted to when they did the whole storyline for the corporate ministry, and he was the higher power.
That was some
He
horse
actually-
shit.
Yeah, he actually wanted to be the one that kidnapped Stephanie and married her, as opposed to having Triple H do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and then there was another, and then, down the line, closer to that Trish Stratus angle, he wanted to do like an incest angle that just.
Yep.
Ugh.
This man has some
Why?
dark fucking fantasies that he's just allowed to play out on TV.
Pretty
you know-
much.
You can't be mad at him for it, because if you had the power, you'd do the same thing. But I think in general, yeah, they need to, if they're going to go that route, which I don't mind them going that route. They've had opportunities to go that route before with different characters. Darren Young, first openly gay wrestler in WWE.
Mm.
He got cut years
He
ago.
did. Yeah, he should. And there's been talk about him coming back. So
Which I would be perfectly okay with, as long as they do it in. Oh, this is gonna sound really weird for the WWE. As long as they do it in a tasteful manner.
I was gonna say respectful, but that's equally as weird.
Exactly, right? And we know they're not. We know it's gonna just backfire. And then
It's going to be him coming out in like rainbow trunks and boas and stuff like that, and they're going to focus. The only thing they're going to focus on is him being gay.
You know what? You know what though? I don't know if they will entirely, because I'll give them this. Sonya Deville is the second openly gay athlete in WWE, first openly gay woman in WWE. And they don't treat her like
they don't bash it over your head, which I
She comes out
love.
in all black. She's got the rainbow belt, the rainbow.
She wears rainbow stuff when she wants to, and that's the important thing. She lets it in as much as she wants to.
Yes, absolutely, 110%. And I think if they do it like that, if they let him choose how much of a deal they want to make it, or he wants to make of it, I think that's where they would probably benefit the most.
And if he wants to be wrestling's Elton John, and it was his idea, I'm all for it.
Absolutely, 100%. So now that we sidetracked quite a bit, shall we circle back to where we started?
Okay, yeah. Which kind of was where I am with wrestling, and that's I kind of gave the synopsis there of I'm also using this podcast as an excuse to force myself to get into it more, and I should also I need to mention here that because Lance got me into it a few years ago. One thing that him and I do, we don't do it as much anymore because Lance moved much further north than he used to be. I'm in Pelham. He used to be in Manchester, which was only 25, 30 minutes away at best. And now he's in Hopkinton, which is about an hour. So we used to get together for every pay-per-view. And we would kind of swap off and watch wrestling, get super drunk. It was just a good time altogether.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're further away from each other, we now kind of focus on the big four.
Right.
That being Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, Survivor Series, and SummerSlam. Especially because there are NXT TakeOver events the night before.
So you get like a whole weekend full.
Yeah, exactly. We make a big weekend out of it. And occasionally we don't remember those entire weekends.
And we have to go back on Monday and watch both pay-per-views again.
Stuff. It's more fun in the summer, like between Survivor Series and SummerSlam are a little more fun because, like, especially his son, doesn't have school, so he gets to stay up with us later and watch it, and we get to be as loud and obnoxious as possible. Not that we weren't at Royal Rumble. I'm pretty sure we ranked up some decibels when Edge came back.
Listen,
Oh,
so when my wife found out she was pregnant, the first thing she said was, "You and Nate cannot do that anymore in the living room. You have to go downstairs."
Mm-hmm.
So where I am tonight is I have been relegated to the basement. Because right now I'm watching Elimination Chamber. But yes, just so you know, Nate, and everybody else knows, when we do that, we're gonna be in the basement, and I'm hoping at some point maybe to get a couch down here because we're gonna need a place to pass out probably.
Oh, without a doubt. Um, and you know that it's between SummerSlam and Survivor Series is going to be a lot more pleasant down there. It was it was cold last time I was up there when we were down in the basement. It was it
It's
was really
still,
cold.
but I think that so for things like the Rumble and things like WrestleMania, we'll still be fine because I do have that wood stove. So
Yes, yeah. We just got to make sure to grab some
sure,
wood.
yeah, exactly, because we don't do enough of that with each other.
Mm.
I'll grab some more wood
Hey
and
now.
we'll get some to burn.
I need to, as this podcast goes along, I need to get like sound clips ready that I can interject
right.
and just be dumb with it. Just be dumb.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
All right, so that is, I have taken up way too much time here already. Dustin, let's move over to you and where are your wrestling watching days lie this time period?
Well, like it's kind of the same with you, where like I've just kind of been keeping up on what happens,
Mm.
and every time I hear Brock Lesnar's name, I wince a little bit because I hate that guy. So
Good job.
it's part of the reason like I kind of quit watching it over the last year. I was just like, I'm fucking done.
Yeah.
But since the like more higher production value of AEW and
Mm.
more names have been going in there, it's that product seems so interesting to me. And I've been kind of keeping up with like what's happened, but I don't have cable, so I haven't actually watched an episode of Dynamite.
Yeah, because you mentioned to me you're keeping up with After Dark mostly, right?
Yeah, I check out AEW After Dark on YouTube, which is like the dark matches from Dynamite. So you still get to see like the sweet wrestling because even their dark matches are fucking awesome.
They really are.
Like just incredible, and I love like that kind of wrestling. And I go to like local wrestling events, and that was actually the first time I heard of Ricochet. Was he wrestled in 20 minutes away from me in this tiny little room?
You know what? That is
And
something
then,
Lance and I have yet to capitalize on because we have chaotic wrestling near us, which is
right.
where a lot of people came from.
Yeah, dude, like, those like little indie wrestling shows they're cheap to go to, and they're so much fun. Like they're incredibly fun to go to, and you get to see all these like new talents and whatnot, and even old people came in. Like I've met Buff Bagwell and Al Snow, and Damien Mizdow or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been at all like those people have been at all these events and shit, and so it gives you a reason to go, and then you see all these young talented wrestlers in there too, and even Ruby Riott is from my area. In fact, one of my best friends is his brother, or his best friend is her brother. He used to babysit her when she was a kid.
That's awesome.
And I saw her wrestle as Heidi Lovelace in the indie circuit down here before she went to developmental and became Ruby Riott.
Wow.
So that's like I'm more into like going to local events and seeing new up and coming talent, and yeah, more or less.
Cool. All right, and so Lance, as I
Yeah.
opened with here, I said you're kind of our resident expert because you keep up with a lot more of it. So
So let's kind of make sure that we are. I'm not really an expert. I just watch a lot of wrestling.
okay, so
So
you're our resident Mark.
oh, all right. I'll go. So I watch Raw. I watch NXT. I watch NXT UK. 205 Live when I get the chance. Yes, I go there because it's pretty decent.
No,
Um,
Live is super entertaining. I love that high flying shit.
it really is, and a lot of what they've been doing recently, like Jack Gallagher, just the guy who was in the striped pants for a while and did the comedy bit. I
Yeah,
loved him doing the comedy bit. He just came back in more of like a Conor McGregor, befitting the fact that he's trained in MMA. He's fought in MMA. Like he is a legitimate badass. But a lot
Nice.
of that got masked over with the Jack Gallagher initial character. So they've been trying different things out. I thought that initially it came out, it wasn't quite exactly what everybody expected because they had slowed it down for the WWE pace. Then Pac came in. Well, now he's Pac. Before he was Neville.
Mm-hmm.
He came in. He was a monster heel, and he made that brand. And then the dark times came because Enzo came in.
Yeah.
Enzo's from what I can tell, in terms of him being a good guy to his friends, especially what's going on with Big Cass. He's awesome with his friends. He tries to be an awesome human being. But yeah, just wrestling wise, that was not good for 205. And since then they've been trying to revamp, try different things. So I'll try and catch that occasionally. Like I said, NXT UK is really good. If you get a network subscription and you can start watching that, it is basically NXT, just with mostly UK based talent, and it's really really good. You get Walters over there. He's leading a stable called Imperium right now. The women's division, Kaylee Ray is really really good. Vipers over there. Tony Storm came from there. Well, if you watch Mae Young Classic, Ripley came from there again, Mae Young Classic kind of thing. And then I also will watch, obviously, SmackDown. So I try to cover everything. It's a lot to do because it's about a 13-hour investment. And as Dustin, when you're married with kids, it's a lot of work to keep up with everything, and then just try and carve like 13 hours out of your week to watch wrestling. But I also watch AEW as well. I'm sorry?
Yeah, luckily my wife and kids both they all love wrestling, so that helps. But
my wife hates wrestling. Hates it. But that's I try to get in everything. So I watch AEW, I watch WWE, I watch NXT. Again, I hesitate to call myself the expert. I'm just a guy who watches a lot and has a lot of opinions. But I think for my money, what the best wrestling show is on right now is NXT. I started, like Nate said, I got him back into wrestling. He got me back into wrestling too, because we were talking about wrestling probably about 4 or 5 years ago. and WrestleMania was coming up, and I was like, you know what? It was right after the Rumble. I said, I'm getting a network subscription. Like, I want to get back into it if we're going to do Mania. And I found NXT, and I absolutely love NXT. I think WCW is really, really good. I think it's a lot of times it feels like, I'm sorry, AEW is really, really good. A lot of times AEW feels like I'm watching WCW with a lot of the storylines and things like that.
Right.
I will say, to echo Nate's sentiment, if you did not go back, or if you did not watch Raw from Monday, go back and watch Raw from Monday.
Was it good?
It was really, really good.
I'll pull it up on Hulu later, maybe.
Yeah, I would say the beginning segment, you're not gonna like it, Dustin, because it's a lot of Brock Lesnar, but it's more Paul Heyman talking about Brock Lesnar.
I love Heyman. I hate Brock Lesnar.
And no, that's fine. I mean, I would say that I know a lot of people don't like him because he seems like he's a quote unquote part-time champion.
That's my main issue is like if he was on the show weekly or even bi-weekly, I would be more invested in his storylines. But when he only shows up for like the big 4 pay-per-views and one out of every 20 Raws, it's like you're not special and you made the belt worthless.
But do you know why he's only on 1 out of every 20 Raws?
It's fucking expensive.
Exactly. He's getting $500,000 per segment and $1 million per match.
Right, which means he should be booked more like an Andre the Giant, right? Where like, I'm so good, I don't need the belt. I'm just gonna come in here and whoop ass, right?
Yeah.
Like the Andre wrestle as like a super huge attraction with no gold.
Well, so you guys are looking at it from a certain perspective of, I would say, more of like a hardcore wrestling fan. So let me ask you from this perspective, because this is kind of how I look at it. I don't view myself as a hardcore wrestling fan. I view myself as just like a guy who, again, watches a lot of wrestling. Brock Lesnar, he is a former UFC champion. The way they book him is how a UFC fighter would be booked.
Oh yeah, no, I get that for sure. Like I understand because they don't show up at every event, you know.
And what he does is his name is so mainstream because of the fact that he was a UFC champion. He brings more eyes to the product. And if he were there all the time, he wouldn't bring as many eyes to the product or bring as many dollars in.
I just don't know. I saw him like for the last couple of years. It seemed like like Seth Rollins was doing amazing stuff, for a little bit, and I'm like, you're taking all his spotlight. This dude could be running Raw like AJ Styles was running SmackDown at the time.
Right, but they had Rollins come in. Rollins initially lost to Lesnar, and everybody initially loses to Lesnar.
Right.
And then they had Rollins just beat Lesnar last year. It's like a long-term booking where the face isn't going to get his comeuppance right away at the next pay-per-view. Brock Lesnar is legitimately probably one of the most decorated combat athletes in the history of sports, just like Paul Heyman says.
Right.
So to beat him, you've got to build that up. You can't just beat him at the next pay-per-view. Right? He's not running Reigns.
So maybe if we want to dig into this psychologically, I'm a huge Undertaker mark, and having him end the streak was very insulting to me. I do hold a grudge with that too, because I think Undertaker would have never been defeated.
I don't disagree with you at all. Actually,
he was never going to be in the ring again. He should have never been defeated.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Dustin. I am a huge fan of Taker. I don't necessarily like how they ended the streak.
Right.
Um, ugh.
The second time was more insulting.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, that didn't sit. I mean, the way he left it, like when they have him lose to Reigns, and they just had him leave his gloves in the ring, and
It.
yeah, that should have been it.
I had tears, man. I had legit tears in my eyes because my man was done. Like Undertaker, I got into wrestling.
Yeah. I started watching more when he around the beginning of 2000 when he returned as American Badass. So that's kind of my Undertaker. But it's
before
still,
I started watching in like '94.
Yeah.
That's around when I started watching. I remember the debut of The Undertaker. I remember the debut of Nashua's favorite, the Blue Blood, Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Yep.
Oh, God, that gimmick was so bad. But to his credit,
I was like,
what he's done with it is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
The way that he's been able to change his character, his longevity. I mean, clearly he runs NXT now. Like, we know how to.
Can you guys hear that?
Yeah.
I apologize. Hang on one second.
You want margarita?
Can you cut that out for a sec, please?
Wait, Nate, are your parents making margaritas and I'm not there?
Pretty much.
God damn it.
Yeah. That was Okay, where were we? Let's seriously, where were we here? I was so distracted by that.
I was just wrapping everything up. Talking Undertaker and Triple H.
Yeah.
And you know what? That I think is a perfect conversation for another day as to how and when specifically we got into wrestling. What drew us in and who we've kept up with throughout the years and whatnot. I think where we're at now is a great jumping off point. And a phenomenal first episode. How about you guys? Is there anything else that anybody else would want to add here?
I think that's good shit.
Yeah, no, I think that was good. Just don't forget to plug your socials. Are we setting up a Patreon too?
No, I'm setting up an OnlyFans.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Speaking of great story, right? So I follow
in OnlyFans, Dustin. That is
it's a site.
That's where you sell nudies.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
On.
Yep.
So I tend to follow stories on Instagram, right? So I follow a lot of the WWE, and I saw Zaya Brookside. She was doing one of those question and answer sessions. Great, wonderful. So one of the questions was, she showed it, are you getting an OnlyFans site? And her response was, I don't know what that is. The next and no, it was hilarious. It's completely inappropriate that somebody asked that question.
Completely.
But just her responses were golden.
Oh man. Oh, I hope that person was ripped a new asshole.
Oh, I'm sure they would have been.
Oh. All right, everyone. Thank you. As soon as I figure out how to get this up, thank you very much for tuning in to the inaugural episode of the BTW Podcast. This has been Nate Gleason. Next in line,
Lance Johnson.
And Dustin.
Hopefully we'll have a next episode 2 for you, and thank you for checking in with us.